Thank you, Kobe. It is time for our fifth match of the day, and as he mentioned, it is going to be Team Solo Mid versus Vulcun.
And this is the third meeting between these teams this summer, and they currently stand at 1 win apiece against each other.
Yeah, even though Vulcun has struggled against TSM, ManCloud and crew believe that the pressure is on Team Solo Mid coming into this matchup.
I think TSM has more on the line than us. They definitely have to prove themselves. They know that they really should be at the top.
We haven't had much trouble against Vulcun. The only time we lost to them was when we ran a Annie's Zinzao comp. Didn't work out too well. I don't think we're gonna run it again, so hopefully we do better this time.
They may be in a slump, but they still are like a very strong opponent, so we definitely can't look down on them.
It's great to hear, especially like she's saying, it didn't work out that well.
Yeah, maybe next time.
Could have used harsher words. You know, like he did talk about, after TSM crushed Vulcun back in week 1, they decided it was time to try something new. They broke out their comp. It was unprecedented, and it didn't really work.
Yeah, the Annie Jinzhao bot lane was the first we'd seen of its kind in the history of the NALCS. Then they also ran Reginald on Zillion for his first time in Season 3, but that went bad from the very first fight, where they lost 4 members in a failed rescue mission of Reginald, and then Vulcun rolled to a 24-minute victory. We don't get to see those types of compositions very often, but if you're running without an AD carry and you're doing that fighter-filled composition with a Zillion, if you fall behind early, there is no coming back.
At least with the win earlier today, TSM was able to get their record back to .500 after taking down Dignitas, because they were sitting below it for a little while.
Yeah, TSM was able to take First Blood, First Tower, and First Dragon, on their way to that 9th win of the summer, and 3rd win in last 4 games for those guys. So it was a big win for them, really.
Yeah, and now TSM does look to continue climbing back towards the top of the standings against the 2nd place Vulcun. ManCloud and his team came away with a win in their first match of the day against Coast.
Yeah, they use that Ashe-Zyra duo lane that Cloud9 has kind of popularized here in North America. Then they also had global control with it for Twisted Fate and Shen. That was all about initiation and teamfight control. It was actually a little bit counter to what most Vulcun team comps have been lately, but they're trying to adapt just like everyone else, because even though they're alone in 2nd place and wanting to move forward, they're not afraid to try the new things.
It's now or never. You have to learn to do everything, and you know, before we initiate the champion select, we have to take a look at the lineups once more. On the blue side, it is going to be Team Solo Mid, and it's the names everybody knows: Reginald, Odd One, Dyrus, Wild Turtle, and Xpecial.
And on the red side, it is Vulcun with Psycho Sid, X-Smithy, ManCloud in mid, Zuna on AD carry, and Bloodwater on support.
As a complete aside, I'm stoked to see Zuna back with his Mohawk. He's been letting it slide the last few weeks. I haven't been very impressed.
It looks really good when he actually gels it up and pulls it into the full Mohawk, because not only does he have the intimidating yell, now he looks intimidating too.
It's a scaring figure to be dealing with. He's a loud boy. He's a loud boy indeed. Both of these teams have won their respective matches earlier today. They're going to look to see if they can go 2-0 for the day. They will both be playing one more game tomorrow. And this is an important matchup considering the history, considering that TSM stomped Vulcun, then Vulcun stomped TSM. It could be another stompy game. It's
kind of been like this ever since the end of the spring split as well. They're very one-sided games that these guys tend to play with each other. I feel like they might play each other. Just got a feeling for some reason they're going to play each other close this time, because it's the 2nd game of the day for both of these guys. And I feel like with the way teams are settled into a lot of these LCS games, aside from Super Weeks, they play 1 game a day, and then they play the next day. And when you stack 2 games in a day for both these teams, they're maybe playing slightly more standard for their 2nd matchup.
Yeah, it's a different mindset. And it was something, you know, we talked to Odd One earlier, and he was saying how they were planning for this game after their previous game. They were going to talk about it, see how things went, discuss if they want to change anything. And, you know, for TSM, it's very important to actually try to secure a win here. If they do, it'll be the first time that they have a winning record since week 2, which feels like an eternity ago. It's so long.
And we thought they ramped up slowly in the spring split. They're ramping up even slower in this split. I don't think they're technically, statistically eliminated from first place, but it's getting pretty close. When you have Cloud9 at 16-2, and then 7 games back, we would have TSM at 9-9 in 3rd place. They expect to finish first.
We were running the numbers a little bit, and yeah, I don't think it's impossible, but it would mean that Cloud9 have to lose something like 8 games back to back to back to back or something like that. So we'll see if they can make something magical happen. TSM are on the blue side. They have first pick, first ban as we load up into Champion Select. 15 seconds on the clock. After seeing the double globals, maybe consider banning it against Vulcun.
And they also banned Desona, which is something that happened against Vulcun in their first game. People are now targeting Bloodwater and almost calling him out a little bit, because he will 100%, and he's been outspoken about this, pick Sona if it's available.
He's played it 8 times the split. I think he's played Thresh 5 times the split. Out of the 17 games, that accounts for 13 of them. That's a massive percentage of games just on 2 different champions.
And then I feel like if Vulcun doesn't ban out Thresh, which is his second most played, we know how good X Special is on Thresh. Flays for days in every situation. He basically blocks out Jarvan picks because of how good he is with that.
He makes the plays with the flays. Wrapping up the ban, Shen and Twisted Fate have been taken out for Team Solo mid, so they're denying those double globals from Psychos to the Man Cloud. They'll have to think of something else to play. We do see that Jace has been taken away from Dyrus, and that Karthus has been removed from Reginald. That's pretty much a staple, a regular ban targeted at Reggie.
It's his most comfortable champion. We haven't seen much Reginald Diana lately, just completely fallen off the map. I don't think we'll expect much of it more. I'm just thinking back to the playoffs when the last time these teams were, or near the playoffs when they were preparing for each other. It was always a battle between like, well, Reginald's going to play Karthus or Diana, and since they've already gotten rid of one, you know, it's there. I think he'd go with something like a Ryze, though.
He's decided right now, though, as far as the team is concerned, Elise is the #1 pick. So they've left the Thresh slip through, and that does get instantly picked up. So those priority support champions have been taken, but it could mean X Special is going to look at something like a Lulu if he wants to go for that later down the line.
And Vulcun just shows again with these picks how strong they are in champion select, because not only did they get Thresh, which is Bloodwater's second best support, I feel like they locked out X Special's best support, and they did the same thing with the jungle Nasus. I feel like that is playing to X Smithy's strengths as much it's taking away from one of Odd1's most comfortable champions.
It's something that's also good to see if you are a Vulcun supporter, because Xmithio on Nunu, he looked a little bit uncomfortable earlier in the day. You know, he wasn't counter jungling as much. He struggled a lot in the early game, and it's something that I'd actually love to ask him more about, whether or not that was a pick for the team or if it was a decision from himself. Over on the other side, Dyrus is going to get his hands on Rumble, and that is something that's very exciting for him.
He loves it.
Yeah.
He loves the Rumble, and they're picking priority things aside from the Zed right now, but they've left open anything that Vulcun really wants to go for. If they want to go for that teamfight control, when Cloud9 picked the Ashe without Zyra, they ran it with the Thresh, and even though it didn't work as strongly in lane, it still worked for the general context of the game. Zuna didn't look that comfortable on Ashe, aside from later in the game.
Very low.
Low CS, and he was able to initiate, but it wasn't his regular presence in lane. He usually farms much better than that. If they go for it, they're really just attracted to that style of play, even though it's not that practice. They admitted they have less than a week of practice with this.
And to be fair, he did hit, I think, 100% of his arrows. One of them missed, actually, now that I think back to the game. So that could be the signal. In terms of damage, we're still missing Mandatory Cloud's champion. I assume Psycho Sid's going to get his hands on that Zac in the top lane. And I guess they're just leaving that to see, well, what is left from TSM? What else do we want to lock in? Right now, Wild Turtle's considering Twitch. And as we said, the Draven players seem to have migrated towards that Twitch as the replacement champion if it does get locked in.
Full out aggression. You got poison instead of bleed. It's kind of the same thing.
Similar.
Don't tell anyone.
Similar.
But yeah, they go for the Lulu as well because they want to have that aggressive AD carry with the protection. It's the fallback for X Special if he does end up locking this in. I'd expect this or Janna. But yeah, exactly. Lulu, just to try to keep that turtle alive.
There's one thing that is missing a little bit from TSM that I'm noticing that Vulcun does have, is that tanky front line. Yeah, you are going to build Elise a little tanky. Yeah, you are going to build Rumble a little tanky, but they're not a Nasus or a Zac. They're not going to have that same beefy damage sponginess, as I think Riff was calling it earlier today. So it is a little scary, but on the flip side, Vulcan's lacking a little bit on damage right now.
And the trick for TSM when they run this Rumble team comp is going to be keeping people in the equalizer. When we see Balls play his legendary Rumble, you look at the team compositions they run that with, and it's tons of lockdown. It's usually Ashe, Zyra, but then even more on top of that to keep people in the equalizer for the full duration. TSM doesn't necessarily have that. They have some slows and one single target stun coming from Elise, so it makes the positioning of the equalizer much more potent, and it actually draws the damage that TSM has to throw to other people on the team, because they can't just utility keep people in Rumble ult to kill everyone. They got to do other things.
And one of the things that also is going to play into Vulcan's favor a little bit is the fact that Zed, probably going to be picked up by Reginald, he's going to be only refocused one or two targets. It's going to be difficult to insta-burst a Zac, difficult to insta-burst the Nasus with, Zac's passive and Nasus HP.
Yeah.
It does look like ManCloud's going to lock in that Ahri. It's one of his sort of default champs as well.
And this is going to be a quest for Reginald, trying to make it to the only two targets he wants to hit. He wants to hit Ashe and he wants to hit Ahri. Mostly, he just wants to kill Zuna over and over again. That's his total objective in this game, and it's going to be difficult just because Ashe has the high utility and Nasus can just hug Ashe and try to keep or kill Reginald anytime he dives in.
Play the buddy system. Friends can keep them alive, maybe, if they can make that one work. Friendship will keep them alive. It's going to be interesting to see where these lanes match up, as we do see both of these teams locked in. As champions that we see actually both teams playing very often. It's very comfortable picks, I think, for both of these squads. And I imagine the laning phase in the early game is going to be very impactful for both teams.
And we saw that TSM had talked about moving away from the messed up strategies, Jin Zhao, and just going back to the things that they are comfortable with. Because when TSM finds their groove, they really shrink their champion pool throughout history and just play the things that they're very practiced with. It reduces the variance in their team comps and allows them to play their game.
Yeah, if they can just get that intrinsic, just that natural level of play. You're not thinking, you don't have to be told what to do. It happens naturally in game. We are loading up at the moment, and the man that's going to be looking to disrupt that is going to be ManCloud. Sitting at 104 kills for the split note right now. It's the first place position, and he's picked a champion that can burst and destroy people.
ManCloud. It's the ManCloud show for Vulcun right now. The star, really, of Vulcun, if you think about the way they play their game. He's going up against Reginald, who, if you get Reginald going down, you usually take down the entirety of TSM.
Yeah, it's something that we've heard a lot of teams talking about as you see the teams on your screen being pulled in-game. On the blue side, it is Team Solo mid. Last time as we're going into this matchup, and Vulcun on the red side. And we'll see if we're going to have any low-level engagements. Nijak, he caught out a little bit in the previous game and caught us by surprise as well. We're going to be a little bit more on our toes for this one, if anything happens.
Well, that was a little bit crazy in the last game. In this situation, the odd one would have to skill up his stun, or Bloodwater would have to land a very long-range death sentence. And it's actually something that's caught TSM members out before, is that death sentence, which is why that ward is going to pay some huge returns to TSM for seeing everybody on Vulcun aside from Nasus walk through.
They're going to be well aware that there's only 4 members of Vulcun in their jungle. Vulcun going to do this, very aggressive invade as far as wards are concerned. Get the vision down, and we actually tend to see them backing away relatively often. Right now, though, Vulcun trying to push themselves towards this mid lane, it looks like. Even just trying to keep themselves in a position where they can jump on anybody if members of TSM, overextend.
Yeah, trying the sneak attack, but unfortunately TSM is not to be fooled, and they had to just go back to that ward and just decide to recall on it. This gives 100% knowledge to everyone on TSM, and it's going to allow them to make a play if they get a little bit aggressive here.
So 30 seconds on the clock before we see those, big neutral camps spawning, and it doesn't look like Team Solo Mid are grouping too tiny. They're actually stuck 3 of their members on this tri-bush. They're pinging on the red buff, and they're going to consider a steal here.
Well, because Vulcun recalled so soon, it would have given Vulcun some time to come back into their own jungle, but once again, because of how much vision that one TSM ward provided them, it kind of told them Vulcun never had time to patrol their own red buff, which is why TSM feels safe stealing it.
Such a great play. So we see that's probably going to be donated. That's actually given to Wild Turtle, a level 1 red buff. Not only denying that from Xmithy, it's also going to give him so much more pressure and ability to take control of that top lane. Again, with the death sentence, Bloodwater is not taking turret aggro. Yeah, Xmithy forced to flash away. First blood gets given to Dyrus.
Oh, man!
He's going to flash away. The ignite's ticking. That's a double kill for Dyrus, and he survives.
That was very unexpected. I feel like Dyrus was saying, why are these guys diving instead of a tank who can sit and disengage? Normally a support would take that and then kind of walk away. Vulcun went for a surprise play, but Dyrus wasn't pressed.
Not on the same page at all. Burning that exhaust before the fight. Right now, though, we do see the odd one has not grouped in this top lane, so it's a 2v1 push onto this tower. They've got some damage down, but nothing working out in their favor. And Dyrus in such a good position, 2 kills on the board and a blue buff to play with.
He's level 4. 3 minutes and 40 seconds in. Usually these 1v2 laners get completely obliterated from an experience angle and just can't deal with the game. That gives him such an edge throughout the rest of the game and puts Vulcun in such a hole. Not only did Elise not even have to participate in a 3v1 fest, Dyrus got the equivalent of a perfect gank from Odd One, even though it wasn't there. That was incredible.
The red buff was stolen by Wild Turtle. Blue buff was secured by Dyrus, and that means Xmithy now needs to return to that jungle with 6 CS on the board, a death to his name, and no buff to work with. He has nothing to his name. It's going to put him significantly further behind his opposite number, the Odd One, who has now grouped up with Dyrus in this bottom lane. And it actually looks like they're going to go for a 2-1-2 setup, trying to keep Zuna and Bloodworm a little bit a little bit more control.
Maybe they'll try to turn the tables here, since they do have a level advantage hugely over Zuna and Bloodwater. Levels 4 and 4 against levels 3 and now 3. It would be a rather risky turret dive, but boy, would that be a way to get a stranglehold on this game.
We don't have Ignite available just yet. The odd one using that smite to continue taking out minions in this lane, just get it up to the tower even quicker. Just make, you know, Zuna's life a little more difficult CSing underneath that tower. And we've seen he struggled in the early game, securing those last hits earlier today.
And now the lanes do seem to have calmed themselves down. As you said, it's a 2v2 on the sides, and then it's now about this ManCloud versus Reginald lane in the middle a little bit, until either like a Thresh Lantern lands or something really crazy happens in one of these lanes.
Right now, Psycho Sid continues taking a lot of damage from Wild Turtle in Special. Just trying to keep him poked down from the back. Xmithy on defensive duties, throwing out that Wildfire, trying to at least save this town for as long as possible. 50% of his HP taken down at the 5-minute mark. If Wild Turtle and Special keep this up, they could be looking to take a relatively early tower, and Psycho Sid forced back very low.
Yeah, he would still have his passive, but you don't want to be messing around with that in those 2v2 lanes. I feel like because Xmithy lost those buffs so quickly, his 2v2 became substantially less threatening, which is why Wild Turtle and X Special are having so much freedom, just pushing them back and taking a big chunk out of that turret's health bar.
Yeah, 1 or 2 more minion waves if Wild Turtle is left unchecked could be all that's needed to take down the first tower of the game in favor of Team Solo Mid. Right now, Vulcun find themselves 1,300 gold behind, doing their best to CS and keep themselves relevant. A lot of damage being put down onto Reginald thanks to that charm being led by ManCloud. And Dyrus very close to hitting 6, ahead of his duo lane opponents.
Yeah, that is a dangerous situation for Zuna and Bloodwater. If Odd One comes even close for a gank once level 6 hits, knowing the flash is still down from Zuna, this could be Dyrus turning around something. Dyrus is not going to get 6 on this wave though, so Vulcun has a little bit of safety, but they need to be very cautious about where they go next.
You just mentioned the Odd One. He's very close by as well. Double golems, he's just busy sitting trying to secure those as quickly as possible. He's on level 5 as well. As you see Dyrus overheating. Couple more minions is going to be all that it takes to unlock the power of that equalizer. And I think as far as top laners in NA is concerned, Dyrus, Rumble has been one of the champions. Igniter is down. We do see the Lantern gets clicked. Ashe gets away to safety. Barrier is still available if they need that one. Odd One is trying to get in range, but I don't think it's going to be enough as Dyrus overheats with the Flame Splitter.
Bloodwater was one step ahead there. He actually left Zuna slightly exposed, only so he would be far enough away to get that max range Lantern. And I have to say that baited Dyrus into going, because these whole last minute or two, he's been thinking about that level 6, knowing that with good memory of when Balls got the double kill on him and the Odd One, saying, I'm going to do the same thing to these guys. And Vulcun just saw the play a minute beforehand and countered it.
Great preparation from Bloodwater, planning ahead. And also the fact that Zuna maybe wouldn't be too opposed to actually going back and spending some money. Still has not done so. His opposite number, Wild Turtle, has already picked himself up a BF sword and returned to that top lane. And with that extra attack damage, that top lane tower is not going to last very long. Blue buff is respawned here on the side of Vulcun, and the Odd One is there on cue to steal that one away with 0 contestation from Vulcun.
Yep. This game's going to be so difficult for Vulcun based off of what happened with Dyrus in the bottom lane. It's taken itself to the rest of the map. Just that one isolated play that happened so quickly, because that's why the Odd One was able to go in and steal. It's honestly why Wild Turtle has been able to farm up this BF sword, because there's no danger to him up in this top lane. Knowing that Xmithy's been sitting out there without buffs the entire game, it's just opening so many doors for the rest of TSM.
And as we're looking at this top lane and how easy it's been for Wild Turtle Special to farm, Reginald's joined this party. He's going to throw himself in with a clone. The Shadow Death Mark is going to down. He's going to pop. Ignite carries on ticking. One more tick's not going to be enough. Reginald's going to be able to zone Psycho Sid away, and that's going to allow TSM to pick up the first tower of the game.
Yeah, and Odd One is actually burning the ultimate of ManCloud because he recognized there wasn't enough mana on ManCloud to take him out. So once again, everything on the map is going very well for TSM.
Every single individual decision working in favor. Equalizer is down, the box goes up, Flamespit is ticking away, and through the exhaust it's not going to be enough damage. Dyrus is about to get his cooldowns, gets stunned in place thanks to the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. Now he's going to get his Scrap Shield up, decides against chasing, even though he has a flash available.
At least he's taken on 2 people by himself, which is just opening so many doors for the rest of TSM. There could be some arguments there for the Equalizer cornering Zuna a little bit more and trapping him on top of it, but it's still forced Vulcun out of the lane, and it's allowing TSM to take this dragon.
So going to carry on putting more pressure on this bottom lane tower. Dyrus is going to get the first bit of damage here after pushing his opponents back. And as highlighted, the fact that they got rid of that dual lane means that Team Solo Mid group up as 4, take down the first dragon of the game, and they extend their gold lead to 4,000 gold before the 10-minute marks. As soon as they start spending some of this money, they're going to be able to win engagements even easier thanks to that item advantage that they'll have in their back pockets.
Normally the thing you want to force with Rumble once you get your ultimate is like a 10-minute dragon fight, but they didn't even have to pull off that dragon fight because they just got the dragon off of a good play by Dyrus. Now that he's picked up the items, I guess they can wait until the next dragon fight, but he gets so many more equalizer cooldowns in between to just try and make plays happen.
He was a quasi-equalizer use. He used it in lane as opposed to in the dragon pit. Yeah. Ended up securing the dragon thanks to the pressure it applied. We do see Dyrus actually returning to the mid lane now, as Reginald has been left to deal with Psycho Sid. So swapping in the lanes, they're not going to go for that 2v1 setup thanks to Psycho Sid's tower going down.
Maybe it has something to do with Reginald wanting to go total glass cannon and knowing ManCloud does have a bit of kill potential on him, whereas Dyrus has went substantially more defensive as well as having his own shield on Rumble. And since Dyrus is in a 1v2 situation where he actually got as farmed as a solo laner, so it gives TSM the freedom to make a swap like that.
We'll see how well it can work out. He is still 35 CS behind his opponent and a level. As ManCloud is sitting at level 9. He is moving towards the bottom lane, poising himself that he wants to make a play and try to counterbalance some of the pressure, but decides against it. Decides to go back into this mid lane, carries on farming up with that Orb of Deception, getting close to maybe a needlessly large rod. He's got that Fiendish Codex collected, and right now a 3 versus 3 in this bottom lane.
And once again, this is a 3 versus 3 without that much threat from Vulcun. Even if Bloodwater landed a death sentence, I don't think it would actually be a death sentence. It would be a minor annoyance, like a 6-month prison sentence. I don't know.
A frustration sentence, as it were. We'll see here. Now, it doesn't even look like Bloodwater's trying to make any of those forward-thinking plays. The moment with Vulcun so far behind, he may just want to play defensive. Dyrus charging up that Flame Spitter. He's about to hit the overheat bracket. Equalizer is available, and it looks like they want to go in. The Cocoon lands down onto Zuna. He is just getting shredded. The box is put in the back line. He's the first to fall before Bloodwater gets taken down. Now Dyrus is tanking up the tower. Wild Growth goes down as Smithy's going to be the third to fall. That's a double kill for Dyrus. He's 4-0-1, and they'll get the tower.
And that was a tower diving clinic by TSM. Dyrus put the ultimate right against the wall as the rest of TSM was just pushing everyone else up against it. As ManCloud just tries to dive Reginald a bit mid, but he's just got to walk away.
Reggie and ManCloud trading ultimates and damage back and forth. Ignite was not used by Reggie. The rest of TSM, after taking that bottom lane tower, they're now getting into this inner bottom lane tower.
And it's because that dive was so clean. No one even had to go back immediately for TSM. I cannot say enough how well executed that dive was for TSM and how helpless Vulcun seemed inside that turret.
The Cocoon could not have hit a better target. Locked Zuna up, got him burnt by that equalizer. Vulcun are trying to respond in this top lane at the very least. Psycho Sid's getting some damage down on the tower. He may be able to get it down because Dyrus isn't going to be there quite quickly enough.
Finally something back for Vulcun. They need a lot more than this though, because Psycho Sid, if we're just looking at him, 3,200 gold, and if we compare him to Dyrus, who is technically the guy in the other 1v2 situation, it's a 1,400 gold difference, and you mainly see it in the items. Dyrus is full penetration right now, whereas Psycho Sid is sitting on boots and a health crystal.
A full Haunting Guise separates those two players, thanks to all the kills that Dyrus has secured. And we'll see how well Dyrus can make that work for him. Every equalizer he used thus far has been important. It's got, summoner spells or secured kills. Right now, though, the rest of TSM, they've now grouped up in this mid lane. They've got the 2 outer turrets down in the top and bottom lane, and they've set their sights on this mid lane.
And I wonder if they'll wait for Dyrus to come down before they try the mid turret. It's kind of the next natural progression for TSM, so they have better control over this blue buff area. But it looks like they might even be getting a little bit impatient, and they're going for the Vulcun blue before they have mid-turret control. So
we do see the rest of the team, they're actually grouped up. So it looks like they're going to try to do both right now. As Dyrus has joined in the mid lane, the Odd One and Special, they're going in. The smite goes down, so Smithy actually takes that. And I guess a small win because it's been denied from ManCloud.
And ManCloud is the guy they have to shut down right now. Getting all that damage out, I think he's dead.
Yeah, it looks like he's been marked for death. The shield goes up, and the shield's enough to save him. Now the death sentence does pull the Odd One back in. He's forced to flash with the Wild Growth on. Wild Turtle zoning everybody with the spray and pray, and Vulcun are praying that somebody will stay behind. Not going to happen as TSM secure the tower.
That was a fight that actually went good for Vulcun, but they didn't get any results out of it. Sure, TSM burned a bunch of ultimates without getting a kill, but they got a turret, and it's not like Vulcun can capitalize off of it since so many of them were taken low in that fight, in large part due to Wild Turtle being in the flank and getting the spray and pray down on so many people.
Good positioning from him, pays dividends at least in this engagement. He's got those Berserker's Greaves completed as well as a pickaxe over his opponent. Flashes, that is a great hook. Locks down X Special, the box goes up. Zuna's going to be looking to pick up a kill. They actually burn the exhaust as well. X Special gets dropped, but that is a whole lot invested for that kill.
At least they got on the board. See, this is the big thing. It's a confidence boost for Vulcun now, and they need to be able to take something more out of this. They caught X Special warding, which will give them temporary map vision advantage as well, since X Special can't make it back to ward so quickly. But because they burn so much, as you said, I don't think they can actually capitalize on that.
Wild Turtle's also managed to regroup and move himself towards this mid lane. It looks like they're going to try to at least defend their blue buff. Smitty's going to back away in time. It looked like he's sticking around maybe a couple seconds longer. It does look like TSM can actually hold on to this. And it's an interesting thing to touch on, the fact that they've got 2 mana-less champions in their solo lanes. That blue buff, you could donate it elsewhere if you wanted more use from that buff.
Very well, give it to Odd One if you want to, but that's not usually how Reginald rolls. He wants that energy regen on Zed, and surprisingly, Zed is actually fairly energy gated if in a team fight or even in lane if he wants to spam every single Q out. So giving him a blue buff is beneficial.
Looks like it's going to work out for them. Team Solo Mid once again going to get onto the Dragon. Going to secure this one for the game as the rest of Vulcun. I think they've found themselves an opportunity. They're going to put some damage down, but Xmithy's a little late to leave the party. If Special gets a little lance down, it could be enough to set something up, but instead TSM, they successfully defend their tower.
And despite TSM's gargantuan lead, they don't have clean team fight initiation. They have a lot of good, just general fight presence, but no way of hard initiating. Aside from Odd One just jumping in with Reginald, that just means everyone runs away, and TSM then has to chase through for them. So Vulcun should be able to stall this a little while, but in order to come back in the game, Vulcun has to not only find a way to stall, but a way to get more gold than TSM as well, because right now that's not happening.
Yeah, no Ash Arrow or Zac to throw themselves at the opponent.
No.
Talking about finding gold, Zuna's at least got himself a nice big juicy wave in this bottom lane. He is 40 CS behind Wild Turtle, who we've seen pushing out that top lane, and that's a big difference. 1,300 gold separates these teams. A pickaxe and a longsword, that's a lot of damage. Mancloud's going to secure the second tower of the game for them. That's a good pickup.
And even though we talked before the game about Zuna getting out farmed on Ashe in his previous game, this game isn't necessarily his fault, because as we see there, Zuna's getting harassed by a lot of outside factors. Not only was it Reginald Zed right there, but before Dyrus's tower dive where they four-manned that base, and Wild Turtle hasn't been under any of the same pressures.
When you look at the Vulcun team, he is one of the threats to deal with, Ashe and the Ahri, and I guess if you can shut down one of them, it's only beneficial for Team Solo Mid. Seem to be doing it successfully thus far. We do see that Wild Turtle, thanks to all of that farm he's been able to accrue, he's completed his Infinity Edge. He's actually even got himself a mana potion there, so really wants to spam those expunges as much as possible.
I like mana potions on AD carries, especially when you have a small lead in the lane. It just can occasionally leave you around for that last little second. You pop before a fight just to make sure you have enough.
So Bloodwater lands the death sentence, but it just ends up being a frustration sentence and nobody engages on it. Psycho Sid, however, decides to slingshot himself into the fight. Gets a flash out of Reginald at the very least, so trading at least a cooldown in that regard. Well played there by Vulcun. I'm going to have to wait for that to come back up.
And TSM has such a lead right now, but they need a way to fight. It's the one difficulty they're going to have to overcome in order to win this game, because I feel like they've done everything else. They've gotten the huge gold lead, they can win 1v1s, they can split push, but can they actually get a clean initiation onto a turret where they can take down inhibitor turrets and get aces?
We'll find out. They've got their opponents pushed to their inner turrets, so if they do find that window of opportunity, it will result in them. Exactly. And TSM, a team that not afraid to jump in. Wild Turtle, with his Infinity Edge, he's thinking about picking this fight. Psycho Sid's at 50% HP. He's going to get the expunge down in just a second. Spray and prays out. That's going to pop him into Cell Division in just a second. He's flashed forward for this one. Got a little bit more auto attacks. The Ash Arrow comes out. That's going to stun Wild Turtle in tower range. Now, is Psycho Sid going to be able to get back up? Expunge may not be enough. He is going to actually drop him before the Lantern can come out. Zuna should be able to close this kill out. Volley, is it available? Not going to be enough. Wild Turtle survives. That is a sneaky rat.
That was very fun right there. I gotta say, the Ash Arrow first, there's a lot about that play, but they decide to fight here.
ManCloud has found out the odd one, trading damage back and forth, throws down the Death by Grasp, then the Siphoning Strike goes down as the odd one's going to be the first to fall. Second kill of the game, now he starts eating all of that damage from the Equalizer. Xmithy flashes over, Deathmark goes down, that's going to be a dead Nasus. Going to try at least trace ManCloud away, instead steal that blue buff.
So, I really want to talk about that Twitch play, because I feel like that was the most important thing that has just happened recently. So when the Ash Arrow hit him in turret range, the turret had potential aggro on him from the first hit, but because he got stunned in the turret, he had lost aggro and he wasn't in vision of the turret anymore because it was in the brush, so the turret stopped hitting him. But it was also a really long-range stun because Zuna had fired it from so far away. And before the fight even happened, Psycho Sid got a little greedy and farmed away with his jump, which is why Wild Turtle was able to jump on him.
Well, Psycho Sid back in the action. He's bouncing all up in Reginald's face. Reginald does not have that Shadow Clone available just yet. Ignite goes down. He's turned now onto Psycho Sid, trying to put as much damage down as he can. Survived up a little, but the Hex Drinker goes out. Not going to be enough to save him.
And Dyrus doesn't have an Equalizer up either to follow, so that was a pretty good catch by Vulcun here. Yes, the game is out of hand right now, but it doesn't mean Vulcun can't bring it back. Vulcun was the victim of one of the largest comebacks of the LCS here. They know that these types of games can turn around, especially when one team has team fight control and the other one doesn't. Vulcun has the Ashe initiation on top of the Zac and Ahri, who can all just kind of go in and make a fight happen, where TSM is not afforded the same luxury, so there is still that risk that TSM can't find the fights and then Vulcun can come back.
The Ashe arrows and finding the picks is what allowed Cloud9 to get back in the victory against Vulcun. And right now, Vulcun have found 2 picks to get themselves back into this matchup, at least in the mid lane and that bottom lane. They've been struggling a little bit as far as map presence and control goes, and I think all of the vision wards that they've got down, just trying to deny their opponent's sight, is going to be very key for Vulcun actually making those opportunities happen. If you know where your opponents are, you can throw out those long-range arrows and stick to somebody for long enough to pick up a kill.
And we can see that TSM's definitely slowed down in the past 5 minutes or so. They're trying those skirmish fights, but Vulcun had turned some of them around, and I think it does have to do a little bit with that pink ward control of their own jungle. A, being able to just make sure Wild Turtle hasn't snuck past any wards, and B, just getting the side-to-side movement down because they know TSM hasn't grouped up very well in fights. The danger that's going to happen, though, is if Vulcun actually goes for this dragon that is spawning soon, ManCloud got a little antsy, going for this dragon, that's going to give the team fight positioning that TSM needs.
Timing off just by a couple of seconds, and what a difference that makes to the play. Vulcun had stacked up. They wanted to go for that objective. When they realized it wasn't spawning yet, they immediately backed away. They weren't going to hang around. They weren't going to keep themselves in a bad position.
So at least Vulcun knows what's up right now. They're not jumping into a dragon fight against Dyrus's Leandri's Torment Rumble at this point, but they are still waiting in the wings with their pink wards, hoping to catch 1 or 2 people out, like we say a pick.
Zuna's been very accurate with those Enchanted Crystal arrows today. Second matchup, and he's got some great long distance from downtown type of arrows. If he can make those stick, it can work in their favor. Wild Turtle playing very sneaky once again, running around the map, stealthed up, and basically Team Solo Mid, they're just trying to find a way to ambush their opponents, find a way to actually burst someone down and then take an objective, because there is no Enchanted Crystal Arrow for them to work with.
Yeah, and let's be honest, TSM is in complete control of this game. It's just a matter of how do they make it count, and they're still figuring that out. It's not like if TSM doesn't figure it out, they automatically lose, because they are still so much stronger than Vulcun. But the chance is there that TSM will make a mistake while trying to figure this out.
And we'll see how well they execute this, tower control move. Especially gets caught out by the Death Sentence. Bloodwater actually does eat a cocoon for his troubles. Nobody from TSM is diving in yet. It's 5 members of TSM on this inner bottom lane turret. And they're just going to be able to brute force their way in. Vulcun not comfortable picking a fight.
I think that's how TSM's going to do it, is they're just going to brute force those turrets again and again until they get to the inhibitors and maybe just start Vulcun out. It's up to Vulcun to stop that from happening.
Right now, TSM have positioned themselves in this mid lane, and they're trying to exert their dominance over this lane now. The moment I say that, they all back away. They're just going to slow the game down. I guess when you've got a 7,500 gold lead, you don't want to throw it away, staying somewhere when you're not welcome.
And TSM is staying grouped up as well, which is diminishing the possibility of Zuna landing that sniped Ash Arrow and then getting one person without defense. Because even if Vulcun was able to get that kind of odd man team fight if they kill someone right away, I think the gold lead for TSM is substantial enough that TSM could still win that post-death 4v5, which means sticking together for TSM is just even more valuable.
Especially the amount of damage threats they have with their team is definitely going to play in their favor. And talking about all the damage they've got, look at the item difference between these two teams. For a comparison of the mid laners, Reggie and Mancloud, you've got the Blade of the Ruin King, Brutalizer, Hexdrink, in comparison to just a DFG and a Blasting Wand. There's a big disparity in terms there. Our top laner, Haunting Guy's Sorcerer Shoes in comparison to a Liandry's Torment, plus an additional Blasting Wand on top of that giant spell.
And he's super close to getting the Rylai's combo as well. But once again, where's this fight going to come from?
Just brute force their way in. They're walking through the jungle, and Smithy actually defensively flashing away, flashes over the tree line. Another blue buff steal coming in here from Team Solar Mid. I think this is like the third blue steal of the game that we've seen, and they're just in complete map control. I mean, I don't know how many times we can say that.
Yeah, at this point, that's not a blue steal. That's TSM's second blue being up again. They're just going to go get that thing. Ooh, this could be key, though. They do not have a pink ward to clear this out, and this is the fight that TSM wants if Vulcun doesn't run away immediately.
So crucially, Dyrus is still in range, even though Reginald was 1.5 miles away. He needed to trek himself into lane. If that equalizer had come down, that would have been a difficult place to get out of if you were Vulcun.
Would have been a little bit suicidal, I think, which is why Vulcun is a smart team. They recognize the hole they've dug themselves, and they are making TSM beat them. Vulcun is not giving this one up to TSM.
And one of the things that we keep talking about is how Vulcun are looking for a window of opportunity to collapse on Team Solar Mid. In many ways, Team Solar Mid are hoping that Vulcun do something similar. You know, Vulcun, they do have that initiation power. They do have the ability to dive into a team fight. And if it's done in opportune time, Team Solar Mid will happily pull a curse and win a team fight that's been created by somebody else.
Yeah, I think that's what TSM has to do. It's the brute force style, pushing up the side lanes, looking at their massive item advantages, knowing that they can take the team fights and win them, and just building items to do so. Soon, I feel like Reginald is going to build a Blade of the Ruin King, which is just going to make Wild Turtle's Twitch Spray and Pray even more potent. The Liandry's from Dyrus is just going to hopefully corral them into a spot with that equalizer down, which allows the Spray and Pray to hit a higher number of targets for them. And like, TSM has all this stuff figured out. I think both teams know exactly what's at stake here, but it puts the teams into a stasis point where they have to wait for the slow push to actually occur.
And we were talking about the blue buff and who's going to take it. They've actually donated that to Wild Turtle in this one, as Reginald is split pushing in this bottom lane. So really going to try to get as many spray and prays and expunges up as possible during the course of the fight. Reginald is indicating in a decisive split push. The Ashura goes down and Dyrus flashes out of the range.
And that was the one window that Vulcun had, because that's when TSM had split up, and it meant Vulcun had to catch someone out and go for it. But because it didn't work, they're at the mercy of TSM split push.
Zuno are going to try and, Vulcun are going to try and position themselves to do that again, because the Crystal Arrow will be up before Dyrus's flash if Team Solar Mid continue this type of gameplay style. You know, the last 15 or so minutes of the game has just been TSM building up this item plateau and saying, now we're confident to split up and pick fights in skirmishes because we are so much further ahead of you.
I think this can even go all the way back to Dyrus's double kill when they tried to tower dive him at level 2, because ever since that moment, Vulcun has been on their back heels, and TSM is taking incremental advantages off of that. Nothing spectacular since that play has really happened in this game.
It's definitely something that's played into their favor. 5-0-1 in favor of Dyrus playing that Rumble. He does have that Rylai's Crystal Scepter, so the additional slow will at least help TSM control these team fights, as they are sorely lacking when it does come to that crowd control. They continue this pressure on the top lane, and they're stacked up at 4 members.
Plus, Dyrus has got that Liandry's Rylai's synergy, getting double Rylai's double damage on all his Liandry's procs of spells, because he's also going to have them slowed. It's just a nice little added bonus in this slow push for TSM.
Definitely slower paced games for the second half of the day here in week 7. Reginald is still sitting on the side lane, and it's something that we actually see out of Reginald Zed when he does play that ninja. He likes to get split pushing down, and I guess Zed, arguably one of the best solo lane split pushes in the game.
And it's because of his 1v1 potential. It is a little odd putting Reginald on the split pushing 1v1 when he is such a vocal team fight play caller for TSM. It kind of hamstrings the other unit if your leader is off in the bushes doing some other things, which may be why TSM has been indecisive. Another reason could just be the compositional limitations the TSM has that don't allow them to tower dive.
Damn, that's a good word. Compositional limitations. That's quotable,
I've had like 29 minutes to think of it, so I think I finally found the right term.
The one thing that we do notice for Team Solo Mid is their carries are all sitting above 1,000 gold. Wild Turtle has 2,000 gold to spend right now, and I guess he could be saving up to maybe 2,300, get that last Whisper in there. They're just farming themselves into an even better position, and it's something that TSM, they're not under pressure. They don't need to make a play happen. They don't need to dive in. The one thing that they do run the risk of is giving Vulcun enough time for them to get back in this game.
Yeah, I don't even know if that the point's going to happen. I think the way Vulcun gets back in this game is getting one of those fights. I think if time just goes on forever, eventually those little chip shots the TSM takes from turrets from time to time is just going to break down Vulcun's defenses. It's the unfortunate truth of this game for Vulcun, and they are playing it smart, but it doesn't look like they're trying to come back.
It does look like they're unsure of how to come back. Maybe another way of thinking about it. In Vulcan's game earlier today, they had very good control with their Ashe, their Zyra, their Shin, and their Twisted Fate, but it sort of stalled. The game sort of slowed down to an extensive pace, and it took them a long time to figure out how do we make it work, and what they decided to do was split push the bottom lane with Shen and Twisted Fate and the rest of the team pushing Baron. So Vulcun had the ability to make a decision. Yeah. It's just when and how.
And this is the thing for TSM. Now that they have Last Whisper on Wild Turtle, Reggie decided to, I think he's going for Last Whisper instead of Black Cleaver as well, but that could just be for his solo expeditions out in the top lane here. And TSM's either going to be going for a Baron at some point, or they're just going to continue to start Vulcun out. I'm not really sure what their plan is.
On the other side, let's take a look at some of Vulcan's itemization as we see the Baron has actually been started here. Poked, and they take out the ward. We'll see if they're going to carry this one on. It does look like they are doing this. This is the first bold move from TSM in a while. Reggie's gone toe-to-toe with Psycho Sid, forced him backwards. Deathmark was used as the rest of Vulcan are now going to try and contest this one. And yeah, Hawkshot goes out, reveals the vision. TSM back away, even though Baron's at 2,500 HP.
It shows you how cautious TSM is, because the only way that gets stolen is if Xmithy flashes over the wall and outsmites the odd one, which is a distinct possibility, which is why they pulled off. But that is a low percentage smite steal, and they just decided not to take the chance because they know Reginald is going to draw two people off.
The Ashe Arrow hits! Reginald's locked down, Ignite goes out, and he's dropped. But it does give the opportunity for Baron to get started.
And this could still be the same type of flash steal. Now they have the pink ward in, it gives them temporary vision, and he could go for it. He's got to guess, though.
Baron, 1,000 HP. Is he going to go for Equalizer? Goes down.
Oh my god, he got it.
He steals it. He gets the Baron. X-Special's dropped so incredibly low as Mancloud is going to pick up a kill. The Lantern pulls Xmithy out to safety. They've stolen Baron. They've got a kill. That's a second kill of the engagement as now the odd one tries to shut down Xmithy. He life steals through it. Oh my word. That is an ace for Vulcan, and ladies and gentlemen, game on!
That is the longest I've seen Zuna yell during and after a team fight. Can you believe it? We said Vulcan kind of knew what they were doing the whole time. It just didn't look like it, but holy crap, is that a way to come back into it? They get the split push kill on a Reginald, then everybody collapses. They get the flash Baron steal and the ace afterwards.
Xmithy unkilled. He was dropped down to the skin of his teeth as far as health bars were concerned. He life-stealed out the last attack from the odd one. The first inhibitor of the game falls, and it's Vulcan taking down Team Solo's mid's inhibitor.
You hit that desk pretty hard after that fight.
That was unreal.
You shook the monitors a little bit.
That was unreal. I've never seen that. A team that's that far down, they played it perfectly.
That was what Vulcan has been waiting for, and it's the danger that TSM was under since they weren't decidedly mobbing and split pushing, because remember, we talked about the way Vulcan wants to come back in this game, and it's finding odd man fights. Obviously Baron steals always get you back in, but if TSM kind of stays grouped, Vulcan doesn't have those options. So that's why we didn't see Vulcan doing anything for 15 or so minutes, because TSM never exposed themselves. As soon as TSM tried to make that move with Reginald, Reginald exposed himself. And when he died there, Zuna got the arrow, he was down. And remember how much we talk about TSM, or even Reginald, not being with the main squad to make that decision-making. They decided to just go for the 4v3 Baron, risking the smite steal. That in itself is a dangerous call for TSM who are in that position. And once again, Vulcan had the superior decision-making. They got, obviously, lucky a little bit with the steal, but all of that leading up to it was just brilliant strategic play by Vulcan, waiting for TSM to overcommit.
And it does look like that was exactly what happened. Right now, Vulcun are going to stack up. We do see in the mid lane, especially Bloodwater gets dropped, actually. That's a 1v1 where Reginald took him out. Maybe just a little bit out of position trying to ward up. The 5th tower of the game does fall for Vulcun, at least taking down TSM in that bottom lane. And Smithy's just going to carry on this pressure. He's picked himself up a Giant's belt thanks to that last fight. Psycho Sid, he's wearing 2 pants because he's got 2 pairs of belts on. And Zuna, he's also got a lot of items collected thanks to all that gold.
Yeah, they got so much from that fight. Like, not only was the Baron a huge gold for themselves, all the shutdown kills that they got from everyone else on TSM just catapults them back into this game. The kills are even. The turrets are actually 1 up for Vulcun, and they are now only 3,500 gold down, and we know how much more control Vulcun has over these team fights, so they get to pick and choose exactly how the rest of this game goes down.
Team Solo mid also have to defend against those super minions in the middle lane. We'll see how well they can contain that. Right now, Vulcun is stacked up. The Ash Arrow goes down. That is a dead special, thanks to a special delivery Ash Arrow. They're going to pick up their 6th tower of the game. That means Vulcun are now within touching distance as far as gold is concerned. And wisely, they're going to back away and take Dragon to make this even closer.
This is the return of Ash to competitive play, it really seems like. Over these past few weeks, just the utility that these teams are exploiting with Ash here is unanswered by TSM. There's nothing TSM does back to that as long as they're trying to split push, or as long as Vulcun has Baron, or even just pink ward control. Look at all those pink wards that Vulcun had in the jungle there, setting up that Ash kill. Xpecial had no idea. There was nothing he could do about that kill, but Vulcun capitalized once again.
And that's something that Vulcun have been doing all game long, even on the defensive for those 20-25 minutes where TSM had full map control. They were still pink warding their jungle. They were still keeping the vision up and doing the best they can to have all the information to work with. And thanks to that, Vulcun have now grouped up in this bottom lane. 5 members plus super minions pushing in the mid lane. We'll see how long they try to siege up this tower.
Yeah, well, the Baron is gone for Vulcun right now, so they would have to be very careful about this. I feel like they're going to peel back a little bit because, yes, Vulcun can pick fights they want. I don't think they want the 5v5 fights because, like we've seen in that Curse game, TSM's defense here is all about if Vulcun overcommits onto them. And that's exactly what Vulcun would be in danger of doing if they try to fight on this turret.
Zuna is trying to get in range to auto attack, has not actually landed a single auto attack on that tower, throwing out the volleys just to try and keep TSM at bay, keep them on the back foot. And right now the minion wave has been shredded. Super minions are in the base now of TSM, so at some point someone has to go deal with it, and that's the go switch.
Yeah, exactly. There's a chance as well that Zuna and ManCloud can chain their crowd control with even Bloodwater, whether it's Charm to Arrow to Death Sentence, or any combination of the 3. If they land that on a Dyrus, or a Reginald, or a Wild Turtle, it might be grounds for Vulcun to go.
Shirelia's Reverie comes in, the Cocoon lands onto Xmithy, not the best target. They pull the other one backwards as he repels up into the air. Now Reggie is dived all the way back to the backline. He has managed to take down Zuna, which is so crucial. Xmithy still alive, eats yet another Cocoon as Sid stomps down onto Dyrus's Rumble, loses his life in reply. That's Xmithy down. They traded 2 for 2 thus far, but Wild Turtle's still alive. He's going to be able to get dropped now by Bloodwater. That's a 1 for everybody's dying right now. Super Minion's still up. In the background, the odd one, he just bailed on that fight. He was nowhere to be seen. He's going to squash Psycho Sid. They end up trading 4 for 4 in a very messy team fight.
If anything, this tells us how close this game has become. Odd One might play some cleanup here and chase down the Odd One, but holy crap, has this gotten close.
Bloodwater is going to get dropped as the Spider carries on chasing. It's just a matter of time before he drops him down. Remember that, and Oracles will stay alive as it is 3.9. It's going to persist through death in this patch. And, you know, Vulcun showing some weakness. Bloodwater does finally get dropped as the Odd One secures the delayed ace.
Well, that was TSM's somewhat successful force there, but it was honestly because Vulcun decided to stay in the fight. Reginald was able to close on to Zuna at the start of that fight, and that took a lot of the oomph out of the extended team fight from Vulcun in the long run. Now that Zuna has the QSS, he won't get assassinated by Reginald quite as quickly. He'll be able to cleanse off that death mark. But that is exactly the type of fight that Vulcun kind of wants to avoid, because they didn't get to pick that fight. That was the first fight this entire game where TSM was actually able to decide where it happened, and it did work out for them, despite that was the fight with the smallest gold lead of the game, but because they picked it, they were able to win.
We'll see if they can continue to do that. It all started thanks to the Odd One landing that Cocoon off the back of the special Shirelia's Reverie. TSM realizing that They need to make plays happen. They've got a small amount of breathing room now. The fact that their middle inhibitor has respawned, so not going to have to worry about those super minions pushing down their base. Vulcun, on the other hand, they've now just got this big target that they're aiming for, and just a matter of going, at what point do we just try and force our way in there?
Yeah, and here you and me were thinking this was a slow game, which it was, but we were thinking that it might be a boring ending. It's like maybe TSM's just going to slow push and finish it off. No, that's not how this game works.
At some point, Vulcun said, what is the most dramatic thing that we can do to get ourselves back into this match? Let's win a team fight. We're 10,000 gold down, steal Baron buff, and ace our opponent's team. Yeah, let's do that. Took them a little while, but they did manage to make it happen. And right now, they're in the power position. They've lost a bit of their vision on the map, but they're still looking pretty good.
Yeah, Vulcun is proving how anything can happen in a Vulcun LCS game right now. TSM trying to force down the middle lane a little bit because they saw Vulcun peeled off towards the side. And this could be another situation where if TSM went really quickly, they could get a fight onto a priority target. If that Cocoon landed, I think they would have went.
On the other side of the coin, Bloodwater's now thinking about this one. Uses the Lantern to pull Smithy in.
Ooh, they got Dyrus!
Ashara goes down. They've caught Dyrus out. Now we do see that dive forward. The Deathmark gets thrown onto Zuna. This is a split focus as Reginald's Guardian Angel gets popped. The Equalizer's tearing through the HP bars. The first one to fall in the fight is Reginald. Dyrus pops, gets ejected up into the air as the odd one carries on trying to put some pressure down onto the opponent's team. Smithy's the first member of Vulcun to drop. But crucially, Zuna's still alive. Wild Turtle's gone forward. Wild Turtle's still alive. Gets a double kill. Now turning to Psycho Sid. That is a triple kill. Quadra kill secured for Wild Turtle. Joining the fight at the end and winning it.
This could be the game for TSM. Look at the size of those Death Timers, and because of where TSM decided to fight that, they might push in for the rest of this space. What an amazing positional team fight for Wild Turtle, avoiding all the initiation and then point blanking multiple people of Vulcun at the end.
Spraying and praying through his heart's content. Smite thrown up from the odd one. They just want to get this push down as quickly as possible. 20 seconds on the timer before Smithy is alive. The minions have now poured back into the base. The amount of damage that Wild Turtle has, they have won this game. It was their game to win.
Wow.
And they almost gave it away.
Watching LCS games is stressful because that seemed like TSM had lost control. Then all of a sudden, they turned it back on after the Baron play and got the turnaround just right. In that final fight, now that we have a breather since that end of that game was just absurdly quick, the initiation onto the Dyrus was ill-advised because despite the Ashara landing, they did not remove him from that fight, and that's not the type of fights Vulcun wanted with that composition.
Talking about the initiation and how everything went, you were saying how stressful it was for us to watch. TSM, the relief on their faces after picking up their victory, after being in such a commanding position, the question has to be Baron. They have to talk about that. Why was Reggie split pushing? Why is the voice of the team not with the team? And I definitely think it's something that they're going to have to go back to the drawing board and talk about.
Well, at least they came out of the day 2-0. So they're going to be much more positively themed discussions than we've seen previously from these guys. And I'd got to agree with that. The Baron call, not smooth. The ending of the game was really good response to adversity because Vulcun, despite not having a goal lead, had taken command of that game. And TSM took it away from them.
Well, let's actually take a look at that game-winning team fight right at the end as Wild Turtle joins the party. Jet, break this fight down for us.
So there's two things that I think we need to focus on here, and it's Dyrus not getting shut down by the Ash Arrow, getting enough damage down with the Equalizer to split the fight, and then Wild Turtle's patience. You can see he got exhausted, but Vulcun kind of forgot about him because once they took down Dyrus, Vulcun actually thought they'd won this fight. Wild Turtle got withered, and again, everyone forgot about him again. Then he goes point blank, so he can kill one and then not have to worry about moving to kill another. Actually, I think did he still have a spray and pray up at the end of that? But it was just
it was the last couple seconds.
He put himself right in the middle of everyone, and because everyone was so low, it was just one, another, and four.
Started playing a turret defense game. He just sat in the middle and just rotated, going pew, 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 and tore people apart. Great play, and it's actually something that we don't associate with Wild Turtle. The patience in team fights, the control, joining a little bit late. It's something that he's been called out on in the past.
Yeah, he's usually a little bit too all in, which I think worked to their benefit there because Vulcun tried for the first time to initiate a full 5-on-5 team fight, which is in the first 41 minutes of that game, something they were told themselves never to do, and it was working until they finally decided to try, and it cost them the game.
It doesn't matter if you're a fan of TSM or Vulcun, that game was stressful for everybody. So we're going to take a short break.